Hey man, let me tell you something. Getting started in Doom Tower as a new player is no joke, man. It's kind of like a rite of passage for a new account to start making meaningful progress in the Doom Tower. It's not easy, man. My Doom Tower teams kinda suck. And yours probably do too, else you wouldn't be watching this video, man. So this video is going to be all about how you can prepare for Doom Tower, what kind of champs you might want to be holding onto and maxing out to get ready to take on Doom Tower, and how you might want to overcome certain bosses that you are getting stuck on along the way. As you can see, I'm getting stuck on Bommal at quite an early stage, and so we're going to be covering a couple of one-trick champs that can kind of solo these bosses. Those could be quite helpful. We'll also be covering some champion types that are going to help you against certain encounters as well. And on some bosses, even some specific artifact gear sets and the kind of stats you want to have on those gear sets that can help you through those fights as well. And alright guys, let's give a rundown of every boss and just a few tactics that you can prepare to bring into these bosses. Again, this is more of a guide just aimed at getting started in Doom Tower for the beginner player. So if you're a more veteran player and you've got some strats, some pocket strategies and stuff that you would use as a newer player, some kind of very accessible champs and stuff like that that you would throw into these bosses, make sure to share that down below. Boss number 1. Bommal. So Bommal basically summons a couple of bomb adds that when they explode, it deals like I think 40% of your champion's health as damage to your entire team. And when you can no longer brute force your way through Bommal, he feels like one of the first big roadblocks that people hit in Doom Tower as beginners. And honestly, as a newer player, one of the best things you can possibly do is be patient and just grab one of the champs that can solo Bommal. That's it, man. I was lucky enough to pull myself a Lady Annabelle, and she is able to get the job done. Her passive makes it so that heals this champion by 50% of their max HP whenever an ally or an enemy dies. And of course, the bombs that Bommal is summoning count as enemies, right? They are enemy entities on the battlefield. So they explode, they deal a bunch of damage, she heals it back instantly. It's a slow clear, but it's a cheesy way to get rid of Bommal. Other champions that can get the job done, basically completely solo, are going to be Samar Gemcursed, who is a dwarf legendary, and honestly, even the rare champ Templar can get it done. You will have to manually play out the battle with Templar, and it'll take you a hell of a long time, but because of his block damage mechanic, you can time that just right, outlive the bombs, build them just right so he has plenty of healing and sustain, and you can eventually chip down the boss. Another very accessible champ you can build out is also Master Butcher. You can build this guy out and just build him with as much HP as possible and then kind of throw him into any old champ team to kill off the boss. And this is because of Master Butcher's passive. Again, another just rare champ, very accessible stuff. I'm focusing on the accessible stuff that newer players could have a chance to pull their way into. And his passive, when attacked, heals all allies equal to the amount of damage taken. It says does not work against bosses, which is true. However, the bombs that Bommal spawns do not count as bosses, right? They almost like count as enemy champions, right? Enemy entities. And so when they explode, as long as Master Butcher has the most HP on your team, he will always heal your entire team for more damage than they take from the bombs. Next up, we have the Dark Fae boss, and honestly, Dark Fae is one of those that shouldn't be too challenging to bring down because you can basically throw your spider team into Dark Fae and generally do quite well. You're just going to want to bring plenty of 10-meter control for the Dark Fae boss herself, just like you would against Spider. Try and deny as many 10s as possible going to the boss, so decrease speed, 10-meter control, and when the fight first begins, she's gonna summon all of those mirror images, right, of your current champion team. This is her Fae Mirror passive skill, which spawns mirror copies of all enemies onto Asterix's team every time her dark energy counter reaches 5. It also does this at the start of the battle, so she summons a copy of your team, just landing some control, some CC, freeze effects, stuns, 10-meter control, even from the likes of something like High Cartoon can help out a lot, to just wipe out those mirror images as soon as humanly possible. And for the lower stages, at least for Dark Fae, you should do just fine like that. Next up, if you are a brand new player looking to get a fresh start in Raid Shadow Legends, or an experienced player looking to maybe start off a new free-to-play account, then do so by clicking on the promo link down below at the top of the video description. Doing so will kickstart that new account with a free epic champion in the form of Juliana, as well as a whole bunch of starting rewards. And so that link down below not only helps to support me and support the channel, but it's also one of the best possible ways to start a new Raid account. So hell, make sure you go do that. In addition, if you haven't already, go ahead and use the promo code GAMELEAP. And if you have already used it, make sure to share it with your clanmates as well and help your bros out. It gives you a free energy refill, 10 free experience brews, and 100,000 silver. So there you do go. Next up, we have the Eternal Dragon boss, which is currently not in rotation at the time of recording this video. The Eternal Dragon boss can be a bit of a grind, as it does have a skill that blocks your active skills on your team, meaning only really A1s and passives can be relied upon, right? So champs with powerful A1s, champs with healing passives in particular are going to be premium. You can get around the boss blocking your active skills with enough resistance built on a champ, so that is an option as well. And also having a consistent decrease attack debuff on the boss is going to be a lifesaver for you as well as you creep up in stages, because this son of a gun will slap. Some champs that are great into Eternal Dragon, we've got to get started with Syl of the Drakes, and she's going to be mentioned a few more times throughout this video. She's of course a login reward legendary champ. Excellent into Eternal Dragon, mostly because of her passive, right? She gets that consistent healing on her passive, heals all allies by 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn, also places an increased speed buff on a random ally for 2 turns. What's so good about this passive is that it's a passive, right? It's not going to get affected by the block active skills debuff. Another very solid champ is going to be the epic HP champ from the Lizardmen, Jarek, also for his passive as well. Place a 15% continuous heal buffer on an ally for 1 turn whenever an ally loses 20% of their max HP in 1 hit. And again, Eternal Dragon will smack as you start to enter the kind of like middle stages and you creep up in difficulty, right? Jarek also does bring strong version of decreased attack debuff as well, so he brings that consistency. Basically, he brings 2 skills that you really want to have against Eternal Dragon, right? Passive healing, passive sustain that can't be blocked, and he also has a very strong A1 against this particular boss. Another sweet epic is going to be Mr. Vrask, also for his passive, right? Heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP whenever this champion inflicts a critical hit. And so all you want is on his A1, build him with 100% crit, attacks one enemy, fills the champion's turn meter by 20% if this attack is critical. So he's just spamming A1s, spam healing the crap out of the team, doing reasonable damage along the way, and yeah, that's it. That's Vrask, man. Good stuff. So, next up we have the Nether Spider, who's going to be summoning spiderlings, applying mass poisons, and the spiderlings that it summons also have counterattacks. So what are you going to need to take on the Nether Spider as you creep up in difficulty? Well, a good kind of backbone for the team right off of the get-go is going to be 2 cleanse champions, right? Your team's going to be taking all kinds of poison hits, and so being able to kind of cycle through a couple of cleanses is going to help you out a lot. One of the most accessible cleanse champs in the game is, of course, going to be Spirit Host, who removes all debuffs on all allies, then places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn. Just a very good option. Another solid option that is a void rare is going to be Reliquary Tender, who is can serve as like a second debuff remover. Point is, just try and have 2 of them on the team if you can. You can even go double Spirit Host, to be honest, if you're really struggling and you're super budget. Now, in addition to 2 cleansers, you're also almost certainly going to need at least 1 good healer. Valerie could be a decent starting point for you, again, if you're really just getting started, but to be fair, she'll be replaced very quickly by Syl of the Drakes. So I wouldn't be recommending, maxing out Valerie to take on Nether Spider unless you're confident you're going to be using Valerie in other areas of the game. She's definitely not a automatic 6-star for most people. You might just want to wait for Syl of the Drakes and, of course, that very reliable passive healing across your whole team. Next up, as we mentioned just a little bit earlier, the spiderlings that Nether Spider summons will counterattack, right? You want to avoid that as much as humanly possible, which means that your damage dealers against Nether Spider want to be single target hitters. Frozen Banshee is a very good option for this, as you might be building this rare champ, this rare poisoner for clan boss anyway, and so she might be ready to go for you into Nether Spider as well, which would be great. Another champ that can do a lot of work for you as your single target hitter is of course going to be Armiger, who, to be honest, every account will probably be building out at some point anyway, right? His A1's got some decreased turn meter, which is great, and his A2, because the damage is based on defense and enemy max HP, he can also do a reasonable amount of damage as well to the Nether Spider. He's also, of course, exceptionally accessible. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And of course, another great option is going to be Drexthar. Drexthar, amazing triple hitter on his A1, chance to apply HP burn. You get Drexthar from just blasting the hell out of Tag Arena and gradually buying his fragments with the gold bar rewards from the Bazaar in the Tag Arena. And as long as you've got Drexthar's masteries built up so that he unlocks the Giant Slayer mastery, then suddenly his A1 is hitting pretty hard, and your clear time will benefit greatly from that. But yeah, the core of the Nether Spider team is really going to be those 2 cleansers and at least 1 strong healer to keep your team up. The single target damage dealer can kind of be anything, but those are just some accessible options that you can toss in there. Next up, we've got none other than Scarab King, which is one that I know for a fact that a lot of people struggle on because, bro, I struggle like crazy on this boss as well. It's a really, really tough one to kind of just brute force your way through. So what easy answers can you grab to take on Scarab King? Well, honestly, there are not that many super easy answers that I've been able to uncover during my research. So by far, the best possible answer you can grab against Scarab King is the Blood Shield Ring, which has the special effect, gives the wearer a shield worth 5% damage dealt after attacking. Why is this so good? It's because the Scarab King has a check mechanic, right? Which means that when your champs attack in, the boss will check to see if your champs have a shield, and if they don't, then the boss is going to counterattack, right, and attack your entire team, which sucks. The Blood Shield Ring basically prevents that from happening, right? Because you get a shield on attack. How do you get Blood Shield Rings? Well, you have to win clan versus clan and then hope to God that you get a Blood Shield Ring for the faction that you need the Blood Shield Ring for, which I hate so much. It means that there's no way to get Blood Shield Rings other than praying, basically. And it's really, really annoying. Okay, it's also one of the best possible kind of insurance policies to ensure you can quite comfortably take on Scarab King. They're really quite important, especially for just getting started. But that said, there are some epic champ options that can solo the Scarab King. Some of them do require the Blood Shield Ring, others don't. Vegas, by far, is going to be your best possible epic champ option for soloing Scarab King. So if you have this guy, he's going to do the job for you, mostly because of his passive. Place a shield buff on this champ equal to 10% of the max HP for 2 turns whenever this champion loses 10% or more of their max HP from a single hit. Also place a continuous heal buff on this champ for 2 turns any time he drops below 50% health. And so honestly, Vegas, put him in like a destroy set or something like that. He just has enough stability that even when taking the counterattacks from the boss, he doesn't necessarily need the Blood Shield Ring. He can just kind of outlive the boss and tank his way through it and get a job done. I don't know what like stage or difficulty he can sort of scale up to, but he will certainly help you get started. Taragi the Frog is another solo champ option for taking on Scarab King. I think he needs to be built with enough resistance so that he doesn't get provoked from the boss, because every time the boss attacks in, it will provoke. He needs to be not provoked so he can get off his A3, I think, because it is a big old heal as well as a shield buff on Taragi. So getting off the A3, I think, is quite a big deal and might be necessary, but he does very, very well indeed because of his passive, which when attacked has a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff on the attack for 2 turns. Pretty good. And of course, the last solo epic champ that I can think of that's super, super simple will be Lady Annabelle, who we've already touched on, but I believe that she will be needing the Blood Shield Ring to get it done against Scarab King, else the damage just becomes a bit too overwhelming. Now, if you don't have any of the solo carry champs against Scarab King that we covered so far in this video, what you can do is level up a Metal Shaper. He doesn't even have to be that high level. He just has to be built as the fastest champion on your team and then pair him up with a crap load of turn meter control champs. Why does this work out, man? Metal Shaper, rare support champ. What can he really bring to Scarab King that's going to save us? Well, it's going to be one of the most spammable AoE shields in the game, right? Places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's level. You can buck this down to a 2-turn cooldown, 2-turn duration shield. What does that mean? It means 100% uptime on shields just because of Metal Shaper. This champ sucks everywhere, right? Sucks everywhere in the game, but for Scarab King, okay? You can put this guy with the likes of, I don't know, like a couple of armigers, throw some Elf Guard in there, just any kind of really, really uncommon and crappy 10 meter control champions, and he can make it so that the Scarab King never auto-attacks, or sorry, never counter-attacks your team, as they are constantly denying the Scarab King from ever getting a turn, right? You can build practically the entire team with 10 meter control. And then just getting to the boss will actually be the hardest part, right? Killing the waves of mobs before you get to the Scarab King. But if you can secure that, then Metal Shaper is a very, very budget way to get it done. Alright, man. Next up, we have the Griffin boss. And dude, let me tell you something. I hate this boss with a vengeance. because with where I'm at right now on my account, even though the boss isn't active right now, of course, I have no... Oh god, there it is actually. I need to manual this son of a gun, and it's so annoying, dude. Best and most accessible way of taking on Griffin with an early stage account, frankly, get Sill of the Drakes. Get Drexthar, right? Put them together in a little duo team. You want your Sill of the Drakes to be in a regeneration set with just as much speed as possible. Her only job is to live, exist, and not perish and be alive, such that she can use her revive on Drexthar when he inevitably dies. Drexthar's only job is to be revived and then inflict his HP burn on the boss every now and then so that the boss actually dies. And that's it. That's the strategy. It's very, very cheesy. It's kind of lame. But boys, if it gets you through Griffin without having to manual that son of a gun in the early stages of your account, then Christ, man, just build it, you know? Next up, we have Frost Spider. And funnily enough, I put this one deliberately right after Griffin because the strategy for Frost Spider is going to be familiar, boys. Easiest way to get this done, once again, Sill of the Drakes and Drexthar. Drexthar should actually be able to live against the Frost Spider, which is lovely, of course. Put him in a lifesteal set, let him swing in with Giant Slayer. Sill of the Drakes is just there to keep him alive. Again, I should stress that it's very, very important to have your Sill as fast as possible so that she's getting off her passive heals as much as she possibly can. Very, very important stuff. But yeah, Sill and Drexthar, they're just the ultimate little early game duo, right? And finally, that brings us to Magma Dragon, which is going to just... It's basically going to slap the hell out of you if you don't provoke the hell out of the Magma Dragon. So, single target provokers are going to be your best friend against Magma. Once again, covering super accessible options. If you have a better epic or even better legendary option that can keep a very, very reliable provoke up on the Magma Dragon, we talk about A1 provokes that can be applied every single turn, then use those. But Sentinel is a great rare option. Attacks one enemy, 60% chance. It's actually a 85% chance of placing provoke debuff for one turn if this attack is a crit. So Sentinel can do the job very, very reliably as far as rare champions go. And of course, you can increase his debuff chance through masteries and stuff like that if required. Again, we've got to stress that you're trying to keep the boss taunted 100% of the time if possible. Another decent rare option is going to be Greybeard, who has a 70% chance bucked of placing a provoke debuff for one turn. Not as reliable as Sentinel, but if you're really, really struggling for consistent, reliable single target provokers, then Greybeard can at least do the job. Now, as long as you keep the son of a gun provoked, you shouldn't have too many problems. But if the provoke fails to land, then you want plenty of increased defense, ally protect, right? You can't have too many defensive buffs against the Magma Dragon. Sepulchre Sentinel is a great option for this. She brings increased defense and block debuffs on her A2, so that's great. And also her passive has a 25% chance to completely block incoming damage when an ally is attacked. Other options would of course include Jareg, who we've already covered. He does actually bring, I think, increased defense and ally protect, I believe. And even Sill of the Drakes can fit into this team as well. Dude, Sill just helps out so much in early Doom Tower, man. It can't be overstated. A lot of people say, oh, don't build Sill, man, she's overrated, blah, 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 you know. Bro, if you're like running like a budget style account and you're just getting started, she fits into so many teams, is going to help you out in so many different areas of the game. Will she be eventually outscaled in those areas of the game? I mean, probably in time, but she's such a good progression legendary if one there ever there was. And Sill's job in this team is just to revive if anybody happens to get one-shotted because the provoke doesn't go off. And that is actually it, boys. Me, I've actually just leveled up my Lady Annabelle to 5 stars. I think I'm gonna... Dude, I might just take it all the way up to 60 right now. Just get it done during the champ training tournament. Hell, I might be wrong, but I think even at level 50, she should be able to take on this iteration of bommal without too many problems in just a regeneration set and with a decent amount of speed. So... fingers crossed for that. That'll be grand, man, to get past this guy, because I got stuck so early on in this Doom Tower cycle. It sucks. But hey, man, once again, if you get any tips for helping newer players get started in Doom Tower, things that they can prepare on their account, champs that they can hold on to and stuff like that, that can cheese their way through certain boss encounters, I'd love to hear it. These were just some very, very surface level things and simple things and accessible things that newer players can do to get ready for their first Doom Tower climbs. So hey, thanks for watching, guys. Once again, if you're looking to start with a new raid account, make sure you do so by clicking on the promo link down below at the top of the video description to kickstart that fresh account with a free epic champion, Juliana, as well as a bunch of starting freebies that would help to support the channel like crazy were you to do that. So thanks in advance, boys. For now, do enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to catch all of you guys just a tad bit later, man.